I'm a get it going person and I need a manager. So I'm like, somebody
Totally.
manage me. I'm out of control. But I know my skill set. And I think that's also important to know as an entrepreneur that it's a different skill set to get something to birth a new idea versus to then turbocharge that new idea. So I started Club Pilates in December of 2007. I was 26 years old. I was pregnant with my first child, my son, and I was 6 months pregnant when I started it. And so basically, what I did, my husband at the time was a military pilot, and we were both in our eyeballs and student loan debt and car debt and just trying to stay ahead. And I was a trainer, a Pilates instructor at a local gym in San Diego. And I was really busy. I mean, I was one of the top earning instructors. I did personal training and Pilates, and I just did some simple math, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna have a kid soon, and I can keep my schedule, but I'm gonna make no money after I pay for childcare, and I didn't want that. So I wanted to be home with my son and everything. And so we were kind of crazy, and we had a little duplex in Claremont, which is a in San Diego, kind of close to La Jolla and everything. And we converted our living room into a studio, and it looked pretty terrible because I had 49 of my 52 clients came with me, and I had worked in gyms all over San Diego, so I had a following that went from place to place to place with me. And it kind of looked like a brothel, like Range Rover pulls up, 60-year-old man comes out, goes in for an hour, walks out sweaty, and then Mercedes pulls up, another person. Like, it looked terrible. I was like, oh no, we're gonna get evicted. But it was bumping, and I was super pregnant. And then right down the street, on the frontage of the Interstate 5, there was some warehouse space, and it was like hard to find, like just random little warehouse by the first ever Price Club down there on Morena Boulevard. And we opened up our first location literally about a month before I had him. And the rest was just history. So we opened in December of '07, and then in '08 the economy tanked, and my clients were all losing their jobs and like, Allison, I can't come. And I was like, I'll reduce the price. So we got down to the point of $10 reformer classes.
Wow.
And then Groupon came out. So all my clients stayed, more people came. I bought more and more reformers because I just started off like a regular Pilates studio. So we went from 4 to 12,
Mhm.
$10 classes so everyone can do it. And then Groupon came out, and we ran our first Groupon. That was when they did one deal a day. It was like back in the original Groupon, and one deal a day, 24 hours. Well, we sold 2,000 in one day. And then we retained 92% as members. And then the rest was history. So after that, we just went to more and more locations. So
Okay, so I love the phrase, the rest was history, but I know as a business owner and building something that you replicate, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of
mhm,
work.
mhm,
So talk about, and as I read a bit of your story, I mean, you mentioned you really, obviously, if you're going to duplicate something, you have to get really, really ninja-like with the operations, right? Documentation, systems, software, training, and
mhm.
that the people part of it too. I'll speak for myself, has always been the hardest for me. I love working with people. I love developing people. But as an owner and a founder, you're like, I do it this way for a reason. Please follow what I'm telling you to do. So talk
Yeah.
talk a bit about the challenges along the way too. And
Yeah.
we'll get
So
into the growth and franchising, of course.
yeah, I think for me, the systems come naturally. Like that, I would say is like my superpower is I have like a systems mind. Like I analyze it subconsciously. I'm not even aware I'm doing it. But like when I do anything, I'm analyzing the systems and how the business operates. So for me, it was super fun to put together all the systems, and it just came really naturally. And the training part also came naturally because a few months after opening, I had a lot of people who wanted to become teacher trainer or become Pilates instructors. So I developed the 500-hour group Pilates equipment teacher training program. So I think I just kept it really simple and did a lot of like, because I had it all up in here. So I would make the different formats of just kind of questions, and then I would do the training and they would fill in the answers. So
Mhm.
that was a lot easier to create versus doing question and answer and typing it all up. So that was one of the tactics I used for getting all the systems down in a really quick amount of time. Um, but yeah, the growth happened very organically as far as like one location. And then we grew to 5 that I owned in San Diego. And then I had my teacher training graduates coming and being like, hey, I want to open Club Pilates. And I'm like, I want you
Mhm.
to open Club Pilates. So that was what projected us next to the next level, was just the people wanting to do it. But I think so much of it is the culture,
Mm.
and the culture of a company. And I think that that truly comes from the founder's heart. I'm gonna do my little heart thing. I just
Yeah.
learned this. So I'm like,
I know.
oh,
I saw you do it a second ago, and I was like, "Wait, what? I didn't even know this was
I
the
know.
thing." All right, let's see if I can do it too.
Okay, yeah, I
I
love
thought that maybe
it's
my
not
maybe I'm not like turned on that
your
setting or
heart. Like, yeah,
something.
I don't know. I know it accidentally started working. So and you could get confetti to go too, but I don't know how I did it. I just learned it somehow. But I'm
Zoom
not
is like introducing new features all the time,
I
so
know,
I
I
have to
know.
dig into that. That's awesome.
But yeah, so I think the culture and the heart of the founder is so important, because my heart of it was just make Pilates affordable and accessible. It helped me so much. So now how can I share that? And so I think that when our heart is the founder or the visionary of a new concept is truly genuine, it's 100% unstoppable. I was never greedy. I was never like, oh, I want to make X amount and I want to buy, like, I'm pretty like casual in my lifestyle. So but I think that when we have the heart truly genuine like that, that business works. It just works now, and you're going to see the fruits of it. So when your roots are good, you're going to see the good fruits, and that was an example. And I think it's unreplicable and unstoppable when it's from this true, genuine place of passion. And that might be a difference of how women do business and how men do business. So
Interesting. Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out. Okay, I want to talk about something you just said, replicable,
yes.
because you know, you had lots of folks try to
Mhm.
replicate you.
Mhm. Oh yeah, tons. And I think that that's the ultimate flattery. And I think a lot of founders will get into a scarcity mindset of like, oh, this person's trying to copy me and there's not enough. And I think that'll spin negatively, I'll just make up a word, negatively,
That's a great word. I love that.
negatively into your psyche. But it's just important to like, there's plenty to go around. There's an abundance, and it's just like a knockoff handbag or something. You could tell the difference. So it's yeah. So
That's awesome. So I want to get into the decision to franchise, right? So I mean, you've got your students coming to you, you've got 5 locations. They're like, hey, I want to do this, maybe, you know, in another part of town or another part of the US even. What was that decision? Did you just say, like, okay, this is what I have to do? Did you think about other models, or were you just focused on franchising?
yeah, so I didn't have a business background. Like literally my resume was waitress, Pilates instructor, CEO of franchise company. So I didn't know what I didn't know, but I had good advisors, and I'm a researcher, so I learned. But my first one was actually a license agreement.
Mm,
And so an example of a license agreement is like CrossFit. And CrossFit, you can license, and it's really cheap and easy to do a license agreement. I mean, you can get one made for $500.
yeah.
But with licensing, there's no control over the brand. So I did my first one as a license agreement in Encinitas with my first franchise. Now she's a franchisee, REL. And then after I had another like 10 in the works, my lawyer's like, Allison, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck. This is a franchise.
Yeah.
So we converted REL to the franchise system. And then that's when I did my franchise disclosure documents. And franchising is, I used to compare it to, because I didn't know what I was doing. Because now I'm doing my second franchise. I came out of retirement after 7 years and I'm doing my second one. So now it's so much easier because I've been there, done that. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And there's a lot of regulation. And I used to compare it to scaling an upside down mountain. Like you're just going and you don't know where you're going, you're just doing it. But there's a ton involved with franchising as far as like the documents, you have to audit yourself, you have to register in states. It becomes a big system. But it was awesome. I found a fantastic franchise lawyer who's like a great friend now, and he's doing our second franchise right now too. And it's you just got to do it. My motto has always been ready, fire, aim, because you just got to take action and then course correct as you go. But it's just like hiking. You just got to one step at a time. So
Awesome. That's great. I love that. My motto too. I say that all the time. One of the best business books I read early on in my career, Ready, Fire, Aim. So
oh, is there actually a book titled
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Oh,
yes,
awesome. Awesome. I
yes,
didn't even know. Okay, I'll have to check
yeah.
it out. That's awesome.
Who is your franchise attorney?
Tim Pickwell, he's in
I know
Salona
Tim.
Beach.
San
Yeah, Tim
Diego. Yeah.
Pickwell. Yep. I
Yeah.
love
Great.
Tim. He's
Yeah.
awesome. And so
He is great.
he's just salt of the earth because
Yeah.
I literally interviewed about 50 franchise lawyers, like literally, because I couldn't find one and he didn't have a website or no advertising. So I found him by another franchise attorney. I was like, well, why don't you reach out to Tim Pickwell? He's like down the street from you. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So when I first met him, I was like, Tim, why don't you have a website? This, that, like, how are we supposed to find you?
Yeah.
And it was awesome. He's great. And I love his documents because they're just simple English. Like you can read
Yes.
it, understand it. It's not like the thous and the these and stuff.
Yeah.
So
So you start down the franchise path. You sold 100 territories, like right off the bat, is what I read.
within 2 years.
Okay.
And it was funny because I didn't have an office. I didn't know how to use DocuSign. I didn't like literally I'd meet at the spa with my future franchisees and I'd bring the paperwork and we would like write in the margins and spill wine on it. And then I would give it to Tim and he's like, what is this? Like we had a spa day. It was the funnest like franchise celebration party. So it was awesome. Yeah.
That is great. I love it.
Because I never dreamt of selling.
Yeah.
In 2014, it was like probably about March of 2014, I got a phone call from the founder of LA Fitness.
Mm.
He's like, oh, I want to buy Club Pilates. And I'm like, ah! I was like, I
Wait,
had
wait,
no
is this a
idea.
scam? What are you talking?
I
Who
know,
are you?
exactly. No, it was literally him. And he's like, he had 500 LA Fitnesses at the time. And so he literally was what prompted me to even look at it because I never considered selling.
Huh.
And so then I talked to my one of my lawyers who's also my adopted mommy in San Diego. I love her to pieces. She just took me under her wing because when I was first opening Club Pilates, I didn't have a lawyer, I didn't have an LLC, I didn't have anything. And she was one of my clients, and she's like, Allison, what do you do? She's like, I was like, I can't afford that. I'm like, I make $800 a month. Like, what are you thinking? So she did everything for me for free while I trained her. So we did a trade. And then once I
Yeah.
could afford to pay her, she's like, no, pay my charity. And then eventually I could pay her charity and her, but she's just salt of the earth. So I love Amy Rippins. If you ever need a good lawyer in San Diego, she's amazing.
Good.
But sorry, I got off track on the Amy thing. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
just okay. So you get the phone call.
I got the phone call and then I was like, she's like, no, you can sell it and like retire right now. And I'm like, ooh. So we were pretty crazy and we left San Diego and we moved to Incline Village, Nevada, to get out of California. Because California, if we would have paid California taxes on the whole franchise system,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be in the same position, whereas Nevada didn't have income tax. So we moved to Tahoe and I hired a broker in the summer of 2014, and selling actually takes a very long time. Like mine was fast because it was only 9 months from hiring a broker in the summer of 2014 to selling 75% of the franchise and my locations
Mhm.
in March of 2015. So it was only about 9 months, which is super fast. Like
Yeah.
mergers and acquisitions can take years.
Yeah.
So it was very, very accelerated. So but we
Wow.
got out, we were able to allocate 90% of the franchise company to Nevada.
Mm.
We still had to pay 10% on our locations in California, but it was just a great move to get the franchise headquartered in Incline Village, Nevada versus San Diego. So
Yeah.
that's when I left San Diego and I have dreams of San Diego still. I love it. Like the perfect weather
I
and
know.
oh yeah.
That is awesome. Okay, so let's talk about this process. You got the call, but you didn't actually sell to LA Fitness. You hired a
Mhm.
broker to then kind of take you through the process.
Yeah, so I hired a business broker out of the Bay Area and they submitted my information to a bunch of people. And then that's when I got connected with Anthony Geisler, who's now the CEO of Exponential Fitness. And he's kicking butt. Club Pilates just celebrated 1,000 locations yesterday. So
Wow.
he is fantastic. I love Anthony. And I know my skill set as an entrepreneur is I'm a birther of new ideas and
Yeah.
I get it going from nothing to something. But I know when to pass the baton because my skill set isn't managing stuff. It's getting it going. Like I'm a get it going person and I need a manager. So I'm like, somebody
Totally.
manage me. I'm out of control. But I know my skill set. And I think that's also important to know as an entrepreneur that it's a different skill set to get something to birth a new idea versus to then turbocharge that new idea.
So 9 months, that is quick, especially for a company your size. Talk a little bit, if you would, Allison, about some of the things in that 9 month process that you were like, wow, I'm so glad I made this decision. This really made a big difference. And then some of the things where you're like, ooh, I wish I would have looked at that a little differently.
I would say I did all the classic mistakes you could have done in that 9 month process. Like I had all five of my locations in one LLC. So that was a tedious mess to
Mm.
then break them all down. Um, and I definitely, I mean, I was young, I was in my early 30s at the time, and it was intense. And I'm like I want to know right now everything. So I learned to calm down a lot now. I'm a lot more wiser and older. But it was intense and super stressful, honestly. Like I have a picture of myself from back then where I looked 10 years older in
Oh,
2015 than I
no.
look today in 2024. And I think it was just the stress of it because I really internalized the stress. I had two little kids at the time. I think they were 5 and 7. And so it was just intense. It was an intense time. And then moving from San Diego to Tahoe. So I definitely was kind of a hot mess as far as stuff went. And I think, yeah, I definitely, it was a different time period for me of I was a lot more stressed and a lot more reactive and just, a bit, it was kind of big and scary to be selling your business like that. Yeah.
Huge,
Mhm.
huge. I mean, this is
Probably,
huge, Allison.
and I had my identity, I think, tied into it of who I was my business. And so I think that those were all the pitfalls I did. Obviously I had good guidance and good counselors, and my adopted mommy lawyer, Amy, always makes fun of me. She's like, Allison, you were a train wreck back then. And I really was, because it wasn't easy. There was a lot of intense stuff going back and forth. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
If you had to give advice to somebody who was, maybe getting ready to step into that process, what, couple pieces of advice would you give?
I guess I think like for me, the faith component really helped to give me peace, is having faith in something. And I know everybody's different, so I don't want to push my beliefs on anybody, but for me, that brought peace, is a bigger thing outside of me and faith. But I think, yeah, I think it's just a personality thing for a lot of people who are the creative types who create new things, and then to let go of that. And just my age at the time, like being young and children, like, and so I think that that's part of what makes me successful, is my intense personality, but then also it could be a double-edged sword. And so I think just, and I was doing all the right stuff. I mean, I was like meditating and deep breathing and doing everything you're supposed to do, but that didn't, yeah, it didn't. Looking back on hindsight, you can see clearly, but it definitely was a very stressful time. And the second thing is be very careful who you tell your aspirations to.
Mm,
Um, because during my merger, I had about 5 or 6 frivolous lawsuits of staff claiming that I promised them 50% equity of the company, and I didn't. Obviously, I didn't. I had all the paperwork saying opposite, and
yeah.
false claims started just coming out because I had moved from San Diego to Tahoe. And so I became a target. And it was really like, it really affected like how I looked at humanity. I was like, oh my gosh, but that is part of business.
Yeah.
And I know Anthony, when he sold his UFC gyms, or when he sold LA, because Anthony, who bought Club Pilates, went from LA boxing to
Mm,
UFC gyms. And during that time, he had the same exact thing. And as I talked to other founders who go through mergers and acquisitions, people come out of the woodworks, and it's a he said, she said. So they hire some attorney, and the
yeah.
attorney is free, and the attorney is going to make a claim, and they know you don't have in-house counsel. And so they end up, you have to settle, and you have insurance for that, but you settle. And then that attorney who represented the person making the false claim takes 50%, and then they take 50%, and then they get taxed on it. So really, the person making the claim doesn't make that much. It's like you go to arbitration or mediation. Um, but that was really disenchanting again, because I didn't have a strong faith and I didn't understand that concept. So I think being very selective of who you bring in and who you talk to, because I was so open about everything. I just talked and I was like, oh, like a happy visionary. And then I was like, oh, scary. So I know in version 2 of my new franchise company I just started recently, is my first hire is going to be in-house counsel. Because if
Hmm.
you have in-house counsel, no one's going to come after you, because that attorney is going to be like, oh, I'm not going to do this frivolous claim because her guy's going to fight it. And it's not just going to be go to
Hmm.
mediation and settle. He's going to fight it. So,
Hmm.
and that was one
Interesting.
thing I learned from Anthony as well, is if you know you're going to go to the next level, the first person you hire is in-house counsel. So
Hmm.
it's super sad and unfortunate because I don't do business like, I'm not greedy. I don't play the middleman. I don't do stuff a lot of traditional business people do. I just purely do it of my love of like wanting to share awesome stuff with people. So for my kind of personality, I'm like, how can anyone ever do that? Like, that's so crazy. But it's just the reality of business, which was something I had to like really like pray about before I started my second franchise. Is like, okay, I know this will happen, and or maybe it won't, because I have, it's a whole different like version 2.0. What I'm doing now is just so much. It's so cool to like know what you did, take some time off, and then redo it, and then apply everything you learned to that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic. I love it.
A really powerful technique that 100% works is you take a piece of paper and you write on one side of the paper what you want, like in your business goals, like what do you want, and then you flip it over and you say why you know it's going to happen. And I
Hmm.
did that with Club Pilates, like back in, like when it was one location and like a few hundred members. And I wrote, I want it to be the largest Pilates company in the world. And I wanted to help millions of people. And I flipped the paper around, and I know it's going to happen because we're providing this awesome service that's affordable and actually people can do it. And it all came true. So I think that that little recipe is super powerful, because I think there, like with our thoughts, and we can, our creation process and what we're doing, like put the power of our words are huge. And so, and especially the written word. So I think it's, don't type it, don't text it, like actually pen and paper, old fashioned, write it down and why you know it's going to happen. And I think when those intentions are super pure and true, it's amazing what can happen. So
I love that. Awesome.
yeah.
All right. So sale of the company, are you willing to share or
Yeah. So I am in an NDA, but I did I always joke around that I'm a poor millionaire. So I did sell it in 2015, and the terms is I sold 75% of it and I retained 25%. And then after a year, I stayed on the director's culture and education. And I would say that 99% of founders don't last more than a year after a merger, because your skill set, like I've never had a corporate job in my life. I'm like a bootstrap and entrepreneur. So I can't work like in little boxes. I'm like a see the big picture kind of thing. So I lasted a year, and at the 1 year option, I had the option to sell my 25%, or I had the option to stay on. And I felt like I was selling my soul to stay on. So I didn't stay on. I sold the other 25%, and I have no regrets at all. So no, because people are like, Allison, if you kept 1%, you'd be making like 300 grand a month. And I was like, that's true. I would. I'd be super, but I felt like I was selling my soul to the devil. So not that Anthony's the devil,
Oh,
but
I
just
get it.
no, just my moral compass and
Yeah.
my like where I was at in life.
Yeah.
I wanted to sell it 5 years earlier. So I didn't want to keep staying on. It was like the perpetual. So we happily sold it, and the rest has been history, and it's been beautiful. After I sold it, I owned 3 in the Reno, Nevada area as the franchisee.
Hmm.
Um, and then I sold those in 2018. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I totally understand of like, you want to go on to your next thing, which you did. So
Mhm.
let's talk about red light method and how did you come up with the concept and where are you in the process of world domination with red light
Yeah.
method?
So I discovered red light when I turned 40 in 2020, and I started using the red light masks because I don't do anything to my face. I just use like castor oil, and I'm all natural.
I
So
just learned about castor oil, although
yeah.
it's been around for like 8,000 years. But yeah,
Yes,
I'm on that bandwagon
yes.
of
I do the castor
lathering it on
oil.
my
Yeah.
face.
I use a liver pack and I do it all over. I'm like castor oil, but so I use just all natural stuff. And so I learned about it then. And then in 2021, I started working with a lady who had a weight loss clinic where she used these medical wraps and she was franchising. And so I was helping her in that process and she mailed me the wraps to try. And at the time I was getting over long COVID. And so I was super fatigued, super tired. And I'm 6 feet tall, but I gained about 10 pounds in my midsection. And I was like, man, I just feel terrible. I was just really fatigued was what my main symptom was. And it was going on for months. And I was like, when will this end? Like, so she sent me the wraps and I wrapped myself every day for 2 weeks. And in that time, I lost 11 pounds. And then all of a sudden I felt like I was in my 20s again. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing ever. It's so amazing. And so I just did tons of research and I ended up making a new boutique fitness concept called Red Light Method. And it's a mixture of 25 minutes of a medical grade. It's the only class 2 FDA cleared device proven for inches lost, reduce pain and inflammation, increase blood flow and
Oh,
circulation.
you got the balloons to go off. Well done.
So it's proven for all that stuff and then also skin rejuvenation. And so it's the device is like a $35,000 medical device. And usually they cost hundreds of dollars for one 25-minute treatment. And it's all natural. It's so good for you. It energizes cellular health. And I could go on and on about it. But our members, they come in and we have 10 spa treatment rooms and they do a 25-minute treatment. And then after that, they do a group power plate class. And a power plate is this crazy vibrating platform. And it vibrates like 100 times in a second or something. But 10 minutes on it is equivalent to a 30-minute workout. So it triples the amount of muscle fibers you activate. So after your red light treatment, the fat cells get released into your lymph system. And so you need to pump your lymph. And the only thing that pumps lymph is like a lymphatic massage or exercise. So we have to move the body somehow. So the power plate, so red light method, 25-minute treatment, 25 minutes on the power plate, which is equivalent to a 75-minute workout, and then people leave. And so our membership, it's literally like a massage, a facial, body contouring, and a workout all in an hour because it gets rid of aches and pains, arthritis pain leaves, tension. And then also it's like a facial because it tightens your skin, it gets rid of cellulite, and then the power plate. But so we're in little old Bentonville, Arkansas, where we have like 120,000 people in a half-hour drive time. And the average income is not great or anything, but we are already doing better in 18 months open than Club Pilates did in 7 years in San Diego. So
Wow.
yeah, so we're kicking butt. It's amazing. We're almost 400 members and our demographics are terrible because I use this awesome demographic software. And I'm looking at other demographics like Tulsa, Oklahoma is like amazing compared to where I'm at in Arkansas. And you wouldn't think like being from San Diego, when we were first franchising, I'd be like, Tulsa? Oh no, no way. We never go to Tulsa. Where's that? Like, but it's like the land of milk and honey compared to where we are in Bentonville, Arkansas, just as far as demographics go. So it's kicking butt. We are finalizing our FDD right this second. So when you do your franchise disclosure documents, it's a bunch of documents, and then you have to do an audit. You have to financially audit yourself each year. So our audit is happening right this moment, and it'll be done on Monday. And so then on Monday, Tim Pickwell will file the FDD, and we'll be good in 37 states right away. And then there's 13 registration states. So like California, Illinois, Michigan, like those ones we're going to be separately then filing our FDD to register. So we'll be good to go in 37 states as of next week. So like March
Wow.
11th. I know I'm so excited because for it to be doing as great as it's doing right now, in a tiny market, like I'm really excited for the future. So yeah.
Amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And it brought me out of retirement just because I was like, wow, if this works, like this really
Yeah.
works. And
Yeah.
like
If you can make it work in Bentonville, Arkansas, it's going to work anywhere. That's
yes,
amazing.
and to make it affordable and accessible. So like I'm doing the same thing I did with Club Pilates. I'm not reinventing the wheel, but back before Club Pilates, Pilates classes were 80, $100 a pop, and only Oprah and Madonna did it. And so that's how these treatments are $200 or $300 a pop in Arkansas. So they're even more in like San Diego, but our members can come unlimited each month for $199.
Wow.
So yeah, it's amazing. And so we're almost 400 members and it's kicking butt. So, and and it's so much more easy to operate than a Club Pilates because you don't have to hire instructors.
Yeah.
Um, it's so easy. It's such the easiest, most amazing business model. Because I really want to, it gets difficult managing 30 Pilates instructors. And then and anybody who owns a studio will tell you that it's hard because they need to have 500 hours of training. And so you're like,
Oh, and people
pulled.
call in sick and they're not feeling,
Exactly.
like you're just managing people. Yeah.
Yes, and this business model is so easy to run. It's such a blessing and it's so beautiful, and it's the stories have been amazing. Like it helps with diabetic neuropathy. We have members down 70 pounds in like 6 months from doing it. Like it's been out of this world. So I think once the cat gets out of the bag about, because we're light starved, unless you're up with the rising sun with your skin exposed, you're not getting the red and your infrared light, and it energizes your mitochondria at a cellular level and helps sleep.
I love it. Well, Allison, thank you so, so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You have an incredible story, and I'm so excited to see red light method, world domination,
It'll be in San Diego
helping
soon.
millions of people.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, awesome. Thank you, Felina. I appreciate your time. It was a pleasure.